Today on Iron Chef, I'm cooking up some darts via Russell Wilson as he cooked her.
Roll, face.
And then you got the young fella, the first round selection, Jackson Dart. How will he look if he gets an opportunity? But don't forget about Jameis.
I've had enough!
All right, no more cooking. We're done with the Food Network. Even though I do like Alton Brown. Ooh, those were the days, man. Good eats. Well, hope we got some good stuff here, some good football on the horizon. Then you know your Giants today, number 28. And this team is very interesting, if I want to say the least, because you have the big question at quarterback. You have a couple of questions on the offensive line, health, and those sort of things. This receiving core is looking really good. You got a number one wide receiver. Defense looks nasty. Oh my gosh, this could be one of the best defenses in the NFL. Their schedule is kind of tough, but let's start where it all begins. With the Hog Mollies. I know, wrong GM, right? Joe Shane's the GM, not Dave Gettleman. However, when you look at the Hog Mollies here on this offensive line, I rank the tackles here at 15. I think it would be a top 15 group easy if Andrew Thomas, if you told me he's going to stay healthy throughout the entirety of the season, and that's really what just holds the ranking back a little bit. Jermaine Illumina was really, really good last season. You got Marcus Bowe, who I think is going to compete with the guard position for sure. Maybe even center. Who knows? That's definitely a possibility. Wouldn't shock me there. I do think Hudson ends up being the swing tackle this season. Then you got guys like Forsythe and Williams that are going to be competing for a fourth and practice squad sort of positioning. The interior I rank is a little bit lower. And I have the guard position at 27, the center position at 32. Jonathan Smith just has not taken the step. And I don't know what it is, but I'm shocked that he's struggled so much with power. We shall see. This is a big year for John Michael Schmitz. He's got to show, man, or he's going to get replaced after this season. And then at left guard, John Runyon, even though he was dealing with shoulder issues this past season, still was pretty good, and I expect him to be better this year. Greg Van Roten, I know they seem to trying to replace him right now. And then you got Evan Neal, you got Joshua Zudu, Aaron Stinney, Jake Cabas. I think Cabas ends up making the roster. Then you're going to have competition between Van Roten for, Evan Neal and maybe even Azudu. They should keep Azudu at guard. Don't put him at tackle anymore. He's going to be fighting for a roster spot. Stinney as the veteran presence, once again, will be kind of fighting for roster spots there. That's really my view on it. Runyon's the only guy that I would say locked in. John Michael Schmitz probably locked in as the starter as of right now. Right guard is certainly the play to watch out for in training camp. We'll see how that works out. But I am curious to see if Bo could compete in one of those guard or center spots. Then on to the wide receiving room. This wide receiving room finally looks decent. I will say that. You got Malik Neighbors, a true number one wide receiver. I could see him being an elite wide receiver this year. Wouldn't shock me. Man, that guy was so good. Once again, injuries kind of creeping up there. If he could stay as, they were targeting him like 15 times a game, like legit. So it's like he was taking a beating out there. But Darius Slay, I was shocked that they were able to bring him back. I thought like everything was pointing to him going somewhere else, but he must love New York, man. He's back. Good on him. They gave him at least a decent amount of money. He deserves it. He's a good receiver. And then you got Wan'Dale Robinson. I know a lot of people are like, oh, is Wan'Dale Robinson even going to be used this year with Russell Wilson? I think he will be. I think they'll find a way. I think Russ is going to make it a presence to get Wan'Dale Robinson the ball, even though he hasn't really shown to favor receivers like Wan'Dale Robinson. He'll probably be chucking it deep to Darius Slayton and Malik Neighbors. And even Jalen Eilert, which I've heard he has looked the best he has ever looked in training camp. Maybe it's just talk, right? They always have a speculation. Oh my gosh, Malik Neighbors gained 20 pounds of muscle and looks faster this offseason. Like every single year this works. You know what I mean? Like every single time you always hear something like that. Next thing you know, you'll hear like, oh my gosh, Russell Wilson's gained 4 inches in height and he's 20 pounds of muscle mass. Like that's just the way it goes. Now, competing wise, Zach Pascal is going to be competing with a lot of these guys. I feel like Bryce Ford Wheaton for a special team spot. Amir Smith-Marset, I imagine, ends up being the special teams guy, returner. You got Montrell Washington, you name it, right? Bo Collins. I'd love to see Bo Collins make the roster. I think he's a good receiver. Or Cambry's he's another guy that's probably special teams. I think he ends up winning a special team spot. Amir Smith-Marset. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it with some of the depth guys in terms of special teams mainly and competing for a fifth or sixth wide receiver spot. A little Jordan Humphreys, too, is a big weapon mismatch piece in like a slot and stuff. Tight end wise, still very much in question for me, but I will say this, at least they've got a lot of guys that are solid. I'm curious to see what Theo Johnson does in year number 2. Daniel Bellinger could be on the way out. They might favor keeping Dolchich in there since, remember, Russell Wilson, that connection there, and you got Chris Manhertz. I imagine he ends up making the roster because of that veteran presence, and he's a good blocker too. So like he's a really good number 2 tight end, and I feel like they are kind of missing that out of this group. You got Thomas Fidone, a guy that I am really high on. I personally would actually keep Fidone maybe even over Bellinger. I'd keep Doljic and Fidone and then Johnson. Like, that's kinda what I would do. I don't know. We'll see how things go. If they wanna keep 5 tight ends, that's certainly within the cards. Running back wise, oh, yeah, I mean, my rankings, I'm going a little fast here. I rank him at number 31, not quite number 32, but there's just a lot to prove here, and that's why I rank him number 31. Running backs wise, I have it number 24 here, and I like the room. I think it's pretty solid, well-rounded, and you got Cam Skattebo with Tyrone Tracy. I do love Motor Singletary. Maybe I'm ranking him a little bit high, but I'm a big Motor Singletary fan. I think he may even get cut this. I personally, I would suspect that they keep him. Like, I would be a little bit surprised, but if they wanted to save the money, that would be the reasoning why you would go ahead and cut Devin Singletary because they could save a little bit of money with that regard. My guess, though, is they end up moving on from Eric Ray and they keep Dante Miller with his speed and electric ability. He's another guy that could compete on special teams, too. Obviously, like I said earlier, Tracy, Scadaboo, what a 1-2 punch that could be. Like, it could be a really good 1-2 punch. And Singletary as your third running back, I like it a lot. So this running back room, not a problem. Even though it's ranked 24th, I'm not worried about this running back room. They should be very, very solid. Moving on, though, to the quarterbacks, and this is a big discussion. Of course, Jackson Dart. When will we see Jackson Dart? I'm so excited to see him in preseason. That's going to be fun. But Russell Wilson, going to be the starter more than likely for week one, unless Jackson Dart is just like blowing everybody away, which would be awesome, of course, for Giants. I'm sure you're like, please let that be the scenario. However, Russell Wilson, is he cooked or is he going to be cooking this year? This is going to be his opportunity, maybe his last opportunity. Eminem, well, get one opportunity, one shot. And if he doesn't prove it this year, I don't know. We shall see. But he may not get more opportunities elsewhere, at least as a starter. I'll just say that. He'd probably be a backup going forward. So big chance for Russell Wilson. He's going to have to prove it this year. Jameis Winston, I'm guessing, is going to start off as the backup, though. And then Dar will end up working his way into second team reps, and we'll go from there. Tommy DeVito, it depends whether he makes the roster. I know DeVito, he may not end up making the roster. If Jameis Winston wants to stay on the Giants, then yes, but I don't know, man. It's gonna be interesting. Jameis Winston could end up getting cut because he's like, "Hey, I want to go get an opportunity elsewhere to start," or he might get traded at some point by week number 6, and maybe they'll bring back DeVito later on. Who knows? But that's kind of the way I'm seeing this quarterback room. Russell's the starter. Jackson Dart will end up being the number 2. Jameis Winston could be on the move, and then maybe they bring back DeVito later on in the season. Defensively wise, oh, we're starting with the defense line. I'm scared, man. This is like a horror film if you're going up against these guys with the offense line. If you're game planning, unless you are like the Philadelphia Eagles, you're probably scared of this defensive line. Hey, even the Eagles are probably scared of this defensive line going into the next season. When you got Abdul Carter, Kayvon, I'm being quiet because I know it's going to strike some fear. Brian Burns, Sexy Dexy, Chauncey Golston's like their 5th option on this defensive line. Like, are you serious? Like, this is pretty insane. I'll just say that. I need to calm down a little bit, but this is an insane defensive line that has true number 1 potential to be the best defensive line in football. I rank their edge room at number 5. I think it could be number 1. I think the interior defense line could even be better. It depends if Darius Alexander hits the ground running. I am really curious to see how he looks as a rookie because I do think if there's anybody that could be a second, third round, that next guy up, Darius Alexander's the dude to watch out for, right? He is the guy that has that explosiveness to get after the passer, be that complement to Sexy Dexy that they're truly looking for. I think Roy Robertson Harris will be a nice option too. I think Raheem Roches will start this season. I know it's butcher his name, but I love saying it, Nunez Roches. But any which way, I think he'll end up being the starter early on. It's just my hope is that they're going to have more of a rotation. I feel like they will. And then you're going to have guys like Elijah Chapman, DJ Davidson are going to be competing for roster spots out here. Jeremiah Ledbetter. They're all going to be competing for roster spots, even though some of those guys like Chapman and Davidson have shown some nice things, getting opportunities last year. It's just they're getting a little bit more deep. I will say that number 2 position, they've got a lot of competition at least this year, whereas last year was a little bit bare, a little bit interesting. Edge room, like talk about, they're in a pretty damn good spot. I feel like Chauncey Golston would be starting for a couple of football teams out there right now. Linebacker wise, I would give him number 11. This is a projection. Okay. It really is because Bobby Okereke struggled last year and he was not good. He struggled fitting the runs. He wasn't even great in coverage, which has really been his calling card and whatnot. Hopefully, we see 2023 and before Bobby Okereke because that Bobby Okereke is a star. Like he's one of the better linebackers in the NFL. Last year, not clicking, right? So that's going to be a big thing. They gotta they gotta figure some things out there. And maybe year number 2, we'll see some more maturation in this defense. Shane Bowen is the defensive coordinator. We'll talk about coaching here in a little bit. You got Micah McFadden, IU Hoosiers, let's go, and he was really good. I will say he had a really good season. He's kind of the run stop, and he was the one best run stopper, I feel like, last year. Muasau is gonna be competing for a backup spot. I think Chris Board will end up being the backup, like, I'd be shocked if he didn't make the roster, especially with the money they gave him. He's a special teams ace. He brings leadership. He was a captain for the Ravens last year. Yeah, I'd be shocked if he did not make the roster. He's a good player. And then you got some more depth here. Will be competing for roster spots, which Summers, Johnson, and Flores for that fourth, fifth linebacker spot, if depending on how many linebackers they keep. Johnson, he's just got to get healthy. I think Johnson could end up making the roster strictly on talent. Then we go on to the cornerback room, where this cornerback room, you got two guaranteed starters with Paulson Adebo and Drew Phillips. Then you're gonna have competition. Will Don Deontay Banks step it up this year? The effort last year, the coverage last year, not good. Got to get better. Hopefully, he has a resurgence this year. They need it. They need it big time. I think that Banks is a better player than a 67 overall ranking. I'm just going off of what I saw last year. He's got to show improvement, man. He really does. He has all the talent to be a really good football player. Just needs to prove it, man, and got to put the effort out there. He's going to be motivated. I'll say that right now. He's going to have some extra chip. I would guess. Cordell Flott going to be competing there, and I think he'll be the fourth corner because of that ability to play in the slot, play on the outside, gives you good flexibility. Trey Hawkins, D. Williams could be another guy that competes for special teams, could make the roster because of that. Corey Black, though, is my guess. At least him and Nick Jones are going to be competing for spots at that number fifth cornerback position. Then we go on in our green too, possibly. And then safety wise to finish up, I rank him at number 11. His secondary in general looking pretty good. As I just showed, the cornerback room is 22nd. They've got some upside there. The safety room looks really, really good with Javon Holland coming in. I expect him to play way better than last year. I really do. I think Shane Bowen's scheme fits Holland to a T in the way he's going to use him in that back end and versatility wise, maybe more in the early days of Miami. And then Tyler Nubin at safety is going into year number 2. He's a good safety. So I mean, Dane Bell's going to be their clear number 3 safety. Who's going to be the fourth guy? Is it going to be Johnson? Which I would suspect it's Johnson. It could be Page. You never know, or Lane. One of those guys certainly could end up making the roster in those spots. Safety, though, at number 11, the defense looking pretty hot. And finishing this thing up with the coaching staff. 24th is my ranking here. Yeah, Brian Dable, that seat, man. Shh, it's going to be hot, man. He's going to have a lot of people looking over him. That New York media, I'll tell you, it's not so pleasant sometimes, especially when you're losing. But Dable, I still think he's a super talented coach. And it's just last season was concerning for me. I felt like in general, the team looked deflated many times throughout the year. So my hope is that this year we see a little bit of resurgence and they get some things together. This is a big year for Brian Dable. And not just Brian Dable, Mike Kafka going into year number 4. You got Shane Bowen going into year number 2, I think, or something like that. So, they gotta figure some stuff out here with the overall coaching staff. They've got to be a good group. And if not, this could be a cleaned house next season. So I rank him at number 24. A lot to prove, but I certainly don't think this is the worst coaching staff in the league. I think you've got some guys in here. Bowen's been a proven DC and he's solid. I mean, I would call him an elite defensive coordinator, but he's a solid defensive mind. Dable is a really good offensive mind. Mike Kafka. I still think the verdict's out on Kafka right now for me personally, but Dable, I do like him, and I think he is, a good head coach potentially. If nothing else, a good offensive coordinator, and that may, if it doesn't work out, he'll end up going back to a coordinator position, I would imagine. Lastly, I got the Giants at 5-12 this season. Good, good potential football team. Got to stay healthy, of course. We'll see how the coaching goes. We'll see how that quarterback situation goes. That's, I think, going to be the biggest question going into the season. And that division, like I mentioned earlier, it's tough. You got to play Washington twice a year. You got to play Eagles and Cowboys twice a year. Not easy. And not to mention, there's a schedule I feel like is tough in general. So 5 wins, it could be a challenge if that quarterback situation goes to Rockers. And don't be shocked if for Rikers, right? No, but no, not there. But yeah, this is going to be one where I could see him being picked number 1 overall if things really go bad because of how tough their schedule is and whatnot. They've got a lot of talent. Let's see if they can figure things out. Let me know what you think, G-Man. Agree or disagree. Come at me. But I hope you have a good one.